Um, Code coverage. Do you measure it? Do you care? Should you care?
Well, I do measure it. I like it telling me where I might be lacking. Now, of course, if you're doing test-driven development, then you shouldn't have to worry about code coverage because you should be pretty much close to 100%. But I don't do TDD, 100% of the time, of course, or anywhere near there. At least for my own product.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more conscious of doing it, working with, other code bases or whatnot. Because that's just kind of the expectation. Yeah, so basically I like running it and it telling me kind of, are there any areas that are not tested or tested insufficiently? That's what I like it for.
Right. Well, I will say that
what's your opinion?
Even with TDD, and I do mostly TDD. Even with that, I run test coverage pretty regularly because I will forget to test some aspect of the code. I'm writing through code to do this test, and sometimes my brain will kind of get ahead of the tests, and I'll say, oh, it's going to need to do this, so I put it in there. And then the test coverage says, hey, you didn't test these couple of lines of code here. And I'm like, duh. So even with TDD, because we're human and not machines, we'll miss some tests sometimes.
So you're saying even if you're trying to follow TDD, you kind of, I don't want to say fall off the wagon, but things slip through.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll start, while I'm coding, my brain will start thinking, hey, this and hey, this and hey, this, and don't limit it to this. You need to put this thing in here. And then that doesn't get tested because I didn't lay out those tests initially, but which may not be a problem because there are some things that are so trivial, they're not worth testing. Fine. But I like to have the code coverage, and I use SimpleCov. That's my favorite one. But I like to have that code coverage there just as a safety net to say, hey, you forgot to test something here. And that gets me to think about the code and the product and say, well, should I even have this here? Is this right? If I didn't write a test for it, maybe I shouldn't have done it. So, okay, so I want to take a look at one of the gems I really like. I'm going to highlight one of these gems here. It is called Ruby Critic. So this gem, while it has a lot to do with testing, it's not just testing. But it is, it's kind of a code climate type thing. In fact, on the wiki, the creator of this actually talks about creating a poor man's code climate out of this. But what it does is it does a lot of stuff with like churn and complexity and grades your individual code files, but it will also include the code coverage and stuff. This actually runs a lot of different utilities, and you can run it from the command line, or you can make it part of your CI/CD, which I have done, so that it's always spitting out a report. And then if I actually had one set up where if it got a score below a B, it would email us and report things out and let us know, hey, you need to take a look at something, you've dorked it up. But one of the things I like about this is in the code, the smells are great, but in the code thing, it'll show you code coverage, which is very relevant to testing. And when you combine that with the smells, you can get a you can get a good indication of I'm missing tests in this area and this area smells really bad, I should go concentrate on this one this week. Whereas if I'm missing tests in this area, but it seems to be performing well and written well, that's a lesser priority for my weekly test time. So it's just a gem, Ruby Critic by Whitesmith. At this point, it was updated 3 months ago. They're making it compatible with Ruby 3. And I have had lots of good experience with this gem. It's helped me a lot. It runs Reek, Flay, and Flog, as well as a couple other things. And you can put your own stuff in it to a point as well. So I would highly recommend Ruby Critic if you're not already using Code Climate. Even if you are, this is good for local runs. So there's that.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.